ChatGPT, here's the one thing why I use it over the others is because it has a audio input. So you can enable voice prompting. So like I'll hit record, I'll speak out. Instead of typing something out, I'll yell at it to do what I want. And I find it's more convenient than kind of typing something out.
Yeah. Are you a multitasker in a way that while speaking to it, you're doing something else in the meantime, answering an email or working in Figma or whatever?
Yes. Here's my convoluted workflow. So I use ChatGPT in combination with.
We are kind of live now. This is what I always wanted to say. We are live.
And we're officially live.
We are officially live, exactly. I mean, this is just an experiment. I'm curious about, again, like most people, about AI and how you use it, Tyler, specifically. All we talk about is the beginning of a project. Use AI to prototype, help product managers sketch things and deliver them to you just to start better. But how about the second half of a project? I don't think we even talk about it. And I don't think I've ever used any AI help when I just have to produce screens. Am I a dinosaur? Am I getting old?
No, I think you're there. I think the majority of the AI work might be done in the discovery phase, though at least for me, it still continues a bit into kind of the later stages of design. Into two areas. One is copywriting. So like you're doing wireframing, but that might not be the copy that you end up with. I use AI to kind of massage my copy, maybe shorten some text if there's like a character limit. So copywriting is a tool that I use throughout the project, not just in discovery. And also for additional prototyping when edge cases come up. So oftentimes you've done the design and now it's design to dev handover. So they start their sprint, they're starting to work on the project, and then inevitably edge cases pop up that we didn't kind of foresee. So, for example, in a recent project, there was an error state that we weren't handling, and there was no design system kind of structure for that specific error state. And so I had to then jump into Figma Make and then vibe code a solution. And instead of just manually kind of designing that out, I kind of vibe coded 3 or 4 different iterations, met with the engineering team saying, okay, our scope is tight. Which one of these 5 options are the best? It's like, well, this one is the quickest to do. And then we were back and forth from a UX perspective. This is the best from a UX perspective. And then we met in the middle and then came up with a solution based on that kind of AI vibe coded thing. Even though it's mid project or like later stage, there are things that you can leverage AI for. So there's 2 things that are kind of top of mind for me.
Right. So it sounds like you mentioned scope, but also the dev guys were in a rush, I guess, and you had to have a solution for the error state, like on the spot, the same day.
It was next day, but it was close to it. Yeah. So yeah, because it's end of the year, we're trying to get our stuff out the door for our clients. So usually when design is done, the dev team has an allotted 2 or 3 sprints to get that feature out. So anything that comes up along the way might either push something we wanted to get done. But if we can shorten that that cycle to get that design solution done quickly, we're not stopping the project, full stop.
Right. And let's say you didn't have a tight deadline, like you had the rest of your sprint to fix that edge case. Would you have used Figma Make as well?
I think probably. I think it's really good for iterations. I could have probably designed all those 5 different experiences. It would have taken me longer, but because I can get it done quickly, I can probably, if I had a lot of time, I could have pushed 1 or 2 more to high fidelity instead of having it more high level. I'd for just experimentation and trying a thing, because you can animate it, you can prompt it to give you animations, transitions, connect pages together within a single prompt. And because it's connected to your design system, it looks and feels the same. So there might not be a difference long term if I'm kind of envisioning where Figma Make is going, how I design versus how it designs via my prompting.
Right. That also sounds a bit about something I listened to earlier today. You remember the Parkinson's law, where they say that to complete something, it will just take the time that you have for it. So if you don't have the deadline, like I asked before, you will probably take your time and build a design system. And with that in mind, I might wonder if you're would it be possible to complete a project, AI driven, like that big chunky middle part, the way you just completed that, that missed edge case? Do you think that's possible?
I think so. I think something that comes to mind, like if you're vibe coding a thing, I mean, let me circle back. I think I just treat it as like an assistant. So it only does what I tell it to do. So in the case of those different edge cases, what I could do during that series of prompts is say, hey, pretend you're a QA engineer. What are the different edge cases that I'm not thinking of? And it'll list out 10 of the top ones. I'm like, okay, I didn't think of these three. Let me kind of, the latter 5 don't really matter, but I didn't think of this. So it's helping me, but in the end, I have to come up with the solution. It's not the other way around. I'm not looking for the solution from it, but I'm looking for ideas to kind of get my mind going. So I'm not spinning my wheels.
Did that also work that way for that error state that you mentioned?
Not that error state. I had a couple of ideas that I kind of mapped it out. It's been the case where I'll have it spit out some ideas, and I kind of took it in that specific use case. I had like a couple ideas off the cuff based on like best practices, UX norms, etc. But it's really good at giving advice too.
Nice.
But again,
I mean, it's
be aware.
Almost...
Yeah, just be aware that like the person driving it should be senior enough to understand if the AI spitting stuff at you is not good advice.
Right. Yeah, it's like you have your inexhaustible super buddy next to you at all times.
Yeah, I do. And I think we all give I don't know if you give your AI a name or not.
I just call it Claude.
Okay. You're not that far into your relationship yet, I guess.
No. Well, at some point I started saying him, and then I corrected myself to call it it again. So,
okay.
We're humanizing it, I guess. But listening to you, I do realize that I have some outside help for my projects. I have my 2 screens, the one I'm looking at right now with you, and then to the left now I have our episode scheduling overview. But normally I would have my LLM help there, and me being Dutch, working in English, sometimes I don't know a certain word, and then it's AI help, like, hey, what would I say here? So that's the copy help you mentioned that I do as well. One thing I have to admit, and please don't hate me, but I have never used Figma Make yet.
I mean, that's okay. No shade. You don't have to use it yet. I mean, to be fair, I've maybe used it a handful of times. I'll most likely, I don't know why, like Figma Make is right there. It's a quick button away, but my go-to is usually Claude or ChatGPT for a quick thing. I think ChatGPT, here's the one thing why I use it over the others is because it has a audio input. So you can enable voice prompting. So like I'll hit record, I'll speak out. Instead of typing something out, I'll yell at it to do what I want. And I find it's more convenient than kind of typing something out.
Yeah. Are you a multitasker in a way that while speaking to it, you're doing something else in the meantime, answering an email or working in Figma or whatever?
Yes. Here's my convoluted like workflow. So I use ChatGPT in combination with Speechify, if you've heard of it before. So what Speechify is a text to voice. So anything, you can have it kind of read any text on the screen. So like if I'm doing some design work, but I also want to read the PRD, I'll just have it I'll select text and hit play, and it'll kind of speak out loud what's being written in the PRD. What I also do with ChatGPT is I'll yell at it to kind of tell me something if I'm using the desktop app, and then it'll read out its answer in real time while I can kind of do some design work on the side.
Right.
So it's I haven't gotten the desktop app to work. I use the one in browser. So like the one in the phone, you can kind of start a voice chat, but I can't copy the text from it. So if I'm working with some copy and I want to copy things from my left screen, to your point, to the right, that's my workflow there.
I'm just envisioning how that's working. So it's like you have colleagues, even if you're working from home, it's like you have colleagues, around you, that it's because you basically have two AI models speak to each other.
Essentially. Well,
Yeah.
I have one AI model speaking on behalf of another.
On behalf of, yeah. Well, of course. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's true. I do like the voice thing. I have Whisper Flow, and I noticed that I like it for prompting, where formatting doesn't really matter, because the AI will just eat it up. But I don't use voice to text for, let's say an important message or an email, because it tries to format it. It tries listening to my context. And then when I start to list something, it creates a list, but it doesn't put in the paragraph breaks where I want to. And then I'm editing it anyway. And, so it's, voice to text, I'm a bit in between. Like, I like it for some cases, but not yet. Emphasis on yet everywhere. But a bit the point that I have in mind, like we have lots of assisting AI tools around our design work. But is there any, to your knowledge or to in your experience, any AI tool that's really, really like production level quality UI wise that can just create your screens for you?
I think I haven't experimented yet. I have on my list for 2026 to do some MCP work. So I have my website, sassifyos.com. And I just watched a video, self-promotion there.
Subtle, yeah.
Subtle, very subtle. You have the ability, if you set up the tokens and then the structure properly, you can connect it to an MCP and then like basically prompt from Cursor content updates. So for example, if you really want to rank higher on Google and you want to do some SEO work, you can run an analysis from Cursor that feeds to your Webflow website and then do updates on your behalf. And then if you have additionally like a blog set up, you can prompt your way to creating a new blog straight from Cursor instead of going into the designer mode and actually manually putting it in. So the caveat, I think, is that if you have the design system or like the component set up properly, I think there is a way to kind of have AI create screens for you. But you have to have that design system in place, or else it's just going to hallucinate and create its own garbage, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, garbage in, garbage out is what they say. Yes. Yeah, so fun fact, by the way, is that I used to have all my websites in WordPress. And because, it has a CMS, and then you have page builders in addition to it with templates and reusable components. But I felt stuck at some point. I had a website with close to 100 design related articles. And if I had to change one thing, it wasn't really scalable. Maybe because I didn't set it up well. So I started moving things to Webflow because they have their collections, which I think you build one template and then you go into your content mode, and then it's, in my experience, easier to replace. There are pros and cons, of course, with pricing and the system lock and all that kind of stuff. But the fun thing is, it took me a year to make all of that happen because I do that on top of my regular work. So I do not have a lot of time. It's mostly evenings and weekends. I was halfway finished when this year a lot of AI improvements came along. So I had 2 out of 3 websites done. And then the third website, I canceled my Webflow subscription before I started working on the website. And now I'm taking that website from WordPress to PHP and Tailwind CSS class code assisted. So I'm cutting out Webflow. And I think that's something you could do potentially as well. Like, I'm not saying you should throw away your Webflow work, but if you are thinking about starting a new website or migrating a website from A to B, I think it's possible, if you have the knowledge like you do, to cut out the middleman. And middleman being, in this case, the no-code builder, the WordPress Webflow framer or whatever.
I'm curious how that switches for you, because the reason I like Webflow is that it has the visual builder. And then you're using Claude Code, which seems like pricing wise, I imagine like probably a third of the price to kind of host your website anywhere if you're kind of building it in PHP by hand. Webflow's prices are like whatever, 20. If you're doing the yearly plan or the monthly plan, it's like $20 a month, give or take. Like how is that process from like local developing to like pushing live?
Well, I'm learning a lot, I have to admit, and that's something I really like. So, pricing wise, I have the Claude Max plan, but it's 90 euros a month. Not sure how it translates to different
So
currencies, but
$1,000 Canadian.
yeah, at least. But I cannot really put those 90 euros completely to the website because I use it for client work and design projects. So a portion of the 90 goes over there, and I pay 30 euros a year for the hosting and the domain.
Okay.
That's just pricing, and then I do not need anything else. I don't need a CDN or WordPress optimize or Webflow this and that. It's all just under my control. The reason I'm using PHP is because I can still create my included files. So I have my header, my footer, article intro, call to action things, and it works very well together. Practically, like when I would work on the website, I have just not sure what the technical term is, but I have a live server locally. And so when I click save, or when I ask Claude to do something and it does, and then it edits the file and it saves it, to the left of my screen, I see it refresh instantly. So it's not a visual builder in Webflow where you can click something and, I want to change that thing, and then here are my settings. But it's very close to it. And it's super fast and lots of fun. And it's connected to GitHub, and then GitHub is connected to my hosting. So whenever I sync, it goes live right away. And because I enjoy the tech side of it, I have a few scripts that I run just to sanity check my website. Like, do all images have alt texts, and do all the links have a title? Is all the SEO stuff in place? Like, am I not missing anything? Is the description not too long or too short? Yeah, so lots of fun, but also, disclaimer, you have to enjoy that type of work. You have to be quite technical, and I really enjoy that work. And I'm now at a point where I feel like I'm faster while still enjoying myself. So yeah, that's how it works. But I'm not going to take away my current Webflow websites because I really like Webflow. I only did this way because I didn't start the Webflow work yet, and I felt like I saw a gap. Like, wait a minute. What if I do not use anything except just code? So it's more an experiment that turned out to work quite well.
Interesting. And not to just nerd out here, I'm curious what your process is. Well, I mean to nerd out here.
Okay.
I'm curious what your process is to go from Figma to code. Are you doing everything by hand, or is there any kind of AI help translating designs to Claude? I'm curious.
I have a fun answer for you. There's no Figma in this project.
Aha. So you're straight into it.
Yeah. Silence for dramatic effect.
Cool.
But no, but that just to be honest here, that's because it's a simple enough project that it doesn't that it's more work to design it and then build it. So you can get away with it. And also because I enjoy the code and the designing together. So for me, it's doable. If this would be a project with high stakes, financials or health, a health tech project or whatever, with lots of stakeholder involvement and that kind of stuff, then I really want to have the boundless canvas to iterate and think and experiment and brainstorm, but this is small enough that I can do it all in code directly. If I would design in Webflow, I'm proficient enough with Webflow for a simple website, at least to continue directly in Webflow as well.
Okay. Yeah. The reason I asked is I'm very curious about that I'm going to be getting into 2026 is like, how do you make one-to-one the variables in a different like colors across Figma to the code, and then getting that done so that you can prompt your way away from Figma. To your point, like this particular project, you didn't even use Figma, which is magic to me. But like once you get to the point where you've defined the brand of the design system and the components, to then just code the rest. and
Yeah.
not having to go back in Figma, because you can just like, you're doing stuff right in the code.
Yeah, I mean, that's to go back to the original point of having AI help in, in the later stages of a design project. When it's simple enough, you can do it maybe even without the design, because you mentioned earlier, if you have design experience, you know how to validate the output of an AI. Like, if it's good enough, and you can see, like, if it's a live website or a Figma frame, like, it shouldn't matter for you. You can say if it's a good design or not. You can validate, you can take it and validate it. But it's not my goal to be Figma-less. I really enjoy Figma. Sometimes you can. And to talk a bit more about your Figma to code thing, I tried it for a project and it didn't work 100% correctly, but it did better than I expected, mostly because there was a gap between what we call colors in Figma and what we called colors in the code, for example. And also how you set up Figma. I don't know about you, but after a while I get auto layout bloating is what I would call it. So you have stuff collected in a auto layout setup, whatever it might be. And then when you try something else, you get a mess. You delete one part. Let's say you have auto layout 2 layers of text. You delete one layer of text, then you have an auto layout frame with inside of it 1 layer. But you don't really notice if you're working very fast, and you're like, let's drag this text to be part of another auto layout. Then you have one auto layout with nested within it a text layer, and another auto layout within that auto layout, another text layer. I hope you can still follow.
I'm with you.
And that happens, like, that keeps going, but because you don't really pay attention to it. I haven't, at least. And then when you have some sort of MCP, Claude, or Cursor look at it, it just takes everything you see in Figma and copy it exactly. So you have diffs and diffs and diffs. So you have to be extremely clean in your design, and you have to be extremely aligned to your code. So in that perfect scenario, it could work. And the benefit, and then I'll stop talking, the benefit was that we found those gaps, and because of it, we cleaned up the code base some more to use good scales for color. And we cleaned up Figma to use the correct names for text. Text-based, text LG, the Tailwind type naming. Because, funny enough, the code base had wrong colors compared to Figma, and Figma had the wrong text names compared to the code. And we blended them together that way. And since then, it's been way easier to collaborate with developers and AI help and all that good stuff. So yeah, it's a net positive, even though it didn't one-shot it.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I think I find frustrating, is that parity between like the Figma and the project. For Webflow specifically, there's like the Figma to Webflow export, but you have to have everything set up perfectly, to your point, with like the auto layout. But as soon as you edit anything in Webflow, there's a disconnect between the two.
Yeah.
I'd pay a lot of money for someone to fix, like, have some kind of sync where if you change one thing in one place, it syncs it in the other. So like they live together. Cause there's a lot of work to, like, to your example of like tweaking so that you're all at a good point where they work seamlessly together.
Yeah. And I think that's just the human challenge that we have. How many designers and developers do you work with for any given project?
Yeah. I mean, I work with like 6 developers on a constant basis.
Yeah.
So like, and then on different projects, different features. So it's a lot of back and forth. And not everyone has the same context from one project to the other.
Yeah. So that's why I was hoping to hear, because you have 6 developers, you have a designer, then you have a project manager, and maybe a few more stakeholders. They all have opinions, and they all are like, well, let's just do it this way, and then they take a shortcut. They do not tell anyone else, and then you're misaligned already. So just knowing how we work in practice, I'm wondering if we could ever really have that perfect sync at all times, or at least long enough that it's worth it. we need to communicate also perfectly on top of it being aligned perfectly.
Yeah, I think the end goal is to have one tool to rule them all. So have like one tool that's able to, like, if there was a way to kind of craft the design system in code or with this tool,
Mhm.
and then the same way developers branch off of like the current state to kind of develop new features, designers can branch off the current state in some kind of visual editor like a Figma. So like if you were to take a snapshot of like what the code looks like today, let me take this screen, let me edit it, and then I can push those changes visually instead of by code. I think some kind of tool that does that, where there's a source of truth, but branching off looks different depending on the persona that's
That's a good call. Maybe that's why they have branching to begin with, just to let people build safely within their bubble. And then when they're ready, come back to the main branch. And maybe that's also why we do not see that much like real AI/UI tooling, just because it's so difficult because of the things we just mentioned to connect it to all the right places, and why we have a bunch of AI assists around us.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, we have to do the work until like the tool gets better enough. We're going to have to do some work, roll up our sleeves and get it done.
Yeah. Well, I don't mind, to be honest. I don't think it's too much of a problem. I do notice that whenever I work somewhere or on something, and I'm like, and there's no AI help, I'm like, ugh, do I really have to do this by hand? So we're moving the baseline, with every new assist that we get. That's a good thing, unless there's an outage.
Yes, that's scary days.
Yeah. All right. Well, well, you've helped me a lot, at least, because I was really a bit insecure. Like, am I missing something? But it turns out it's okay the way it is. Like I don't feel behind anymore.
And to be fair, it's easy to catch up. Like it's fine. Like,
yeah,
if you're perfectly working fine without it, more power to you.
Yeah.
And then once you find a tool that works best for you, it'll probably just help you out.
Yeah.
Again, AI is just a tool. Whatever tool you're using in the moment.
Well, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I've we talked about this before. Like I'm very much of the belief of pick your tool and stick to it, unless something is obviously better. So yeah, Claude Code is still the way for me to go, and I think it's one of the best according to people in the know. So yeah, I think we'll be fine.
That was a great episode. So if you like this content and want to hear more, please like and subscribe.
Yeah. And if you want to see more, please go to designtablepodcast.com, Spotify, Apple Music, all the big players and more.